Right. I promised you a story about Yde and Olive, so I guess it's about time for Olive to make her appearance. A young woman stood on the palace roof in Rome. A Rome of red roof tiles, Byzantine mosaics, convents and cloisters. A Rome not yet touched by Michelangelo's limp-wristed Adam or the naked female forms of the Renaissance. The young woman's name was Olive, and she was the daughter of King Otton of Rome, who ruled this city. Olive loved it up here. In the rooms in the palace below her every move was watched by court gossips, and Olive felt the ebb and flow of her ample heart stifle under their scrutiny. But here, she was the one who could stare. It felt as though she could just reach out into the world, place her palm flat in the square of a cloister, trace the pilgrim routes running across the city, or run her fingers round the rim of that strange circular amphitheatre, colossal work of the giants. Olive had spent her whole life learning to run this city, but had entered so little of it. So perhaps Olive was the first to notice the young squire on horseback as he entered the city's gates. From the moment the exhausted young man came in and started riding up the path through the city, her curious eyes tracked its progress. Olive was normally not bothered at all by knights in shining armour, but there was something about this young man that just snagged her attention. Perhaps it's because his clothing was so weird. Ramshackle armour bolted together over a dirty yellow tunic. Mad, broken down weapons, a seriously grumpy horse, and a shield bearing too many scars. And despite the absolute state of him, Olive found herself just a little bit jealous of this young man, who rode freely through these strange streets at his ease. Up, up, up he went, until at last he was about to go through the arch directly below her. And I don't know whether Yde was also aware of Olive's gaze from the moment she entered the city, or if it was just in those last few seconds, but just before she went through that arch, she looked up, and their eyes met. The court of King Otton of Rome was a large, circular marble chamber in green and white, hard marble. Built by hands long since dust, the ancient architecture amplified even the most quiet, casual whisper, sending it splintering across the space. Like his father before him, King Otton lived and worked at the centre of ceaseless stone whispers, as gossip, rumour and hearsay bounced from hard surface to hard surface. Centuries of scandal had soaked into those walls. And so King Otton had found himself stifling his speech, being very precise, direct and well chosen of his words. When Yde entered that chamber, she felt suddenly very, very small in that too large space. But the king greeted her warmly. He asked the young man his name, but he simply said, "Alas, sire, I don't know and have an acre of land. I have only a name, Yde. Sire, I served with the German army for a while, but we had few victories. On our way here, we came against the Spaniards who were moving against you. We fought bravely, we delivered half of them to their death, but I have lost my companions." The king looked down at this sorrow-hearted man, who craved only company in his court, and he thought he'd never seen so fine a figure of a man in all his born days. And God knew he needed more men. Just then, a door at the edge of the chamber opened, and his daughter Olive came in. Olive was a little bit pink and a little bit out of breath, almost as though she had run down 2 flights of stairs, 2 or 3 at a time, in order to get there. When the princess entered, every baron in that room stood to his feet, and for a second Yde was unpleasantly reminded of home. But Olive didn't seem to notice. Instead, she fixed her eyes on her father, took a small seat next to the king, and turned her gaze on Yde, looking sweetly at the squire. Yde quickly turned her gaze to the ground, but a masculine pink rose in her cheeks. King Otten caught his daughter's look, too, and he thought he'd never seen her look like that at any young man before. To be honest, that look was something of a relief. So he made up his mind. "Dear daughter," he said, "this man craves company in our court. If it's your wish, I will retain him for you as your squire. Will that give you pleasure?" And Olive answered, rather more quickly than she meant to, "I never heard anything that pleased me so much." Before the demands of ruling and war had eaten all his time, King Otten had once loved to hear stories. And in a lot of those stories, strange, unconnected knights who rocked up out at court out of nowhere quite often turned out to be rich, famous knights in their home countries. And it was clear that Yde's manner and address and way of speaking, clearly the young man had been brought up in the most elite courtly circles. So as he watched his normally socially awkward daughter smile and then start to open up to the young squire, the king wasn't particularly worried. All the same, that evening he took the young man aside and gave him the dad's talk. "Now look here," he said. "I have a very beautiful daughter, and it's well known she will rule this kingdom when I'm gone. Be careful how you conduct yourself with her. If you are noble and you serve her honourably, you will be well loved in my court. We're very pleased you came. It would be a shame if you had to leave." Yde understood completely. "I think I can promise you need not worry on that score," she said. "I will conduct myself very well.